Well, hello, and on this episode and a few subsequent episodes, what I want to do is to build up an idea of what we can do before we ride and then what we can do as we ride to improve our mindset and to make sure that we feel really good when we're in the saddle. So, the first episode today is going to be about what you can do in preparation, maybe a week or a few days before you ride. And if you've already got a ride planned for tomorrow, then that's fine. You can start today and see if that 24 hours worth of mindset helps you along a little bit. So many people only use mindset when they think they've got a problem, and that's fine. That works for some people, but for other people, a little bit like physical exercise, they need to keep doing a little bit every day. Otherwise, just like in physical fitness, you start to lapse a little bit. You're not quite as strong, you're not quite as fit, your cardio is not quite as good. So the little bit of mindset really does go massively towards helping how you ride and how you think, and let's face it, how much you enjoy the ride. Because we pay so much money to have our horses, and we pay for them, we pay for lessons, we pay out for all kinds of things in time and money and effort, and even in our mindset and how it makes us feel outside of riding. You have a really good ride and it puts you on a high. And then you have not such a good ride, and maybe that doesn't make you feel too good. So it's incredibly expensive not to do mindset work. So let's think about what can you do in the days running up. Now, the more days you've got, the better. And just because you've only got 24 hours, that's okay. Once you've had your 24 hours, you've done your ride, keep going with this, because it is like physical fitness or learning any skill. It's going to be cumulative. Okay, so what do I mean by preparing your mind? Well, if you've ever had a session with me or a mindset coach, NLP coach, or hypnotherapist, then you might already have some exercises that you can do. But I'm talking a little bit more generally so everybody can access this. And if you need something stronger, then you can go and find some kind of mindset coach or equestrian mental performance coach. So here are the 4 things that I want us to consider in this episode. Well, first of all, I want to talk about visualization. Now, don't yawn, don't groan. People think it takes so much effort, but it takes a lot less effort than riding. And I'm going to explain it in ways that you can use it. And maybe it'll be a 2-minute visualization. Maybe it'll be 90 seconds. Maybe it'll be 60. I'm sure you can expend 60 seconds to get your mindset going. The second thing I'm going to talk about is your language. Then I'm going to talk about routines. And then lastly, letting go of perfection. Okay, so our minds are like obedient little ponies. And as that came out of my mouth, I'm thinking of all the ponies that I've known that aren't very obedient. But okay, we've got this lovely imaginary obedient pony. And our imaginary obedient pony follows our directions. But our directions have to be very clear. We can't make it ambiguous. Because if we do, they'll do their own thing because they'll get confused. So, for instance, if you tell your brain, I don't want to mess up, then what your brain focuses on is that messing up. And it almost takes it like an instruction. Okay, you want to mess up? Okay, what does messing up mean to us? Well, it means X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to ensure that X, Y, and Z happen. So this stage is all about setting out our directions, if you like. We want to educate our brain in a way. That sounds a bit weird because you think, well, I'm thinking this, so my brain must know it. But you're consciously thinking it, so you're using your conscious mind, and your unconscious mind works in a completely different way. So we're setting it up for the unconscious. This is where your emotions are, your automatic skills are, your habits, your memories. So that's the part of the mind that we want to give direction to. So the first thing that I mentioned was to visualize. Now, visualization, lots of people tell me they can't visualize. But if I tell you that when I used to visualize, I saw in black and white, and it was kind of foggy, it was very blurry. But with practice, I'm getting quite good. I don't see it like a film, like watching television. It's not quite there yet. It's nearly there. I know visual people tell me that they do watch it like a film. So I just need a little bit more practice myself as well. So you're going to start visualizing daily. And this is your mental rehearsal, and this is setting your stall. This is telling your mind what you want. And using pictures is one of the best ways. Words are handy, but pictures are far, far better. So not only is your unconscious mind unaware that this isn't happening in real life, so it thinks this is real, it also means that once you have visualized something a few times, your mind's already getting into the swing of doing it a certain way. You're building a habit. So when you visualize, I would go into a riding position. So physically, you can close your eyes if you wish, if that makes it easier to see what you'd be seeing. Have your hands in a riding position, and you want to turn physically and move your body. You can move your legs. You can imagine that you're giving your horse a gentle squeeze with your legs. That adds to it. The next thing to think about is to imagine that you have a remote control in your hand, just like a television remote control, and you can start to increase the brightness if that makes it feel better and more real, more compelling. You can adjust the colour. So most people like it bright and colourful, but you may like it subdued and maybe even in black and white. Think about the focus as well. Imagine again that this is a different control that's on your remote, and you can start to sharpen it up. Most people find that the sharper the focus, the better they feel about what they're actually experiencing. So think about those things. Make it visually as compelling and as real as you can. And then think about the sounds, because sounds kind of flesh out what's going on. It gives it a real perspective rather than the silence of, your own head kind of thing. So what sounds would you be hearing? Would it be footfall? Would it be birds? Would it be people chatting? Would it be other horses? Whatever it might be around your yard or whatever venue that you're riding at. Add a little sound in. And then get off and go on your ride. Think about, whilst you're doing this ride, what would you like to feel? We've talked about the sensations that you feel in your riding position and the aids that you're giving, but what would you like to feel in terms of emotions? Most people want to feel calm or motivated or successful. So think about what you would like to feel and start to imagine it almost like you're an actor. What would they be feeling if they had to act out confidence? And do it maybe for a minute. If you can manage 90 seconds, brilliant. If you can manage 2 minutes or longer, absolutely fantastic. The more you do it, the better it gets and the easier it gets. The next thing is to think about your language. So I've said that your brain is very obedient, but it's extremely literal. It's like talking to a 5-year-old child. You can't use irony, you can't use sarcasm, and you can't use subtle hints. So you couldn't, for instance, say, I hope I can. I hope I can ride well. Because your mind starts to concentrate on that hope and that feeling of hope more than anything else. And you don't want a feeling of hope, because that's kind of, glass half empty, glass half full. I'm not quite sure what's going on. It's not clear. It's too ambiguous. So instead of saying, I hope I can do this, then you say, I'm looking forward to doing this. So watch your language during the week. What do you say to yourself? How do you describe yourself as a rider? Because that's what your mind actually thinks you are. So if you're self-deprecating and saying, oh, I'm not a very good rider, or, I've always been a bit nervous, or however you talk about yourself, even inside your own head, that's what your mind believes, because you've said it so many times, your mind's convinced now. So it has expectations that it may kind of bring into fruition. So change your language, and it'll feel a bit odd saying, I'm confident, I'm a happy rider, I love my horse, I love riding, whatever you want to say, but just watch your language and watch the number of complaints that you make. Complaining about yourself, complaining about the yard, complaining about your horse, complaining about, they're digging up the field right next to the arena. Watch those things as well. Again, sounds really weird, sounds a bit petty, but it builds up this negativity. It builds up this I don't want to ride kind of feeling. So watch your language. The third thing to do during this week is to build a routine. What is your mini routine before you ride? What's your ritual? You might already have one. You might start with you putting your favourite knickers on or your brave pants, but it might be something else. It might be a few deep breaths. It might be looking at a photo on your phone where you're riding, or just looking at your horse on your phone. It may be having a cup of tea. It may be having a stretch, stretching out your hips or your shoulders, your collarbone, your clavicle, and it may be something like that. So whatever it is, think about that routine, and as you do the routine, start to think about how you want to feel, and tell yourself, I'm not riding yet, I'm not riding yet. Some people in this routine like to write down a word or a short phrase about what they're going to focus on. And then that just clarifies the only thing they have to think about. So the word could be confidence, or the word could be clear round, or it could be perfect centre line, or near perfect, 8 out of 10 centre line, whatever it might be. Because then the extraneous things that are around us, whilst we're still very aware of them, we've got all our 5 senses, and we've got our flight and fight if we ever need it, then we can almost think of those as unnecessary, because we've got our word. You could even put your word on a post-it note, put it in your pocket. Not that you're going to look at it, but you know it's there. The last thing in our pre-ride section is to let go of perfection. So in this stage before you ride, it's gaining mindset momentum. It's not micromanaging. We're building curiosity and we're building a routine. The first time you do these four things, it may not be that you have the perfect ride. It may not be that you see massive changes, but it tells you then that you need to tweak something along the lines. So thinking about this not being able to control everything because you've done this work beforehand, and not criticizing yourself if perhaps it does need tweaking, but this is a longer term thing. This is how we get that mindset that we want. So your homework is to start your mindset early. Think about setting your GPS. And next time, what we're going to talk about is what to do just before you ride. So, maybe you're just getting the saddle off the rack, or maybe your horse is already tacked up. What are you going to do with your mindset then? So I hope this has been really useful. Let me know what you do for your routine, because I'm always really interested to know what people are doing, what's working, what's not working. Really helps to build a great library in my own mind of what people are doing. And I will see you very soon. Take care. See you next time.